Brace yourselves, folks. Today we're going to be witnessing a Eldari Mirror. A Warp Spider Exarch going to be played by Boogyman 115 versus Scrap Goblin and their Farseer. We're on Ashes of Typhon Redux, which means I hope we're going to get a whole lot of Webway gameplay, because as you can see, if you're not familiar with Ashes of Typhon Redux, this is a very large map for a 1v1 map. So good utilization of Webway gates will be extremely impactful to an Eldar player on this map, and of course we've got two Eldar players here today. Now immediately we're seeing a little bit of deviation here in the build orders that the players are going, with Scrap Goblin opting for the double Guardians versus Boogeyman only going for the single Guardian. I think generally you probably don't want that many Guardians in the mirror normally, but because this map's so large, it might be advantageous to purchase some extra Guardians early on, just so that you can spread out over the map and get more capping power early on. Because usually the tier 1.5 for Eldar is the big deal, right? Your Shurikens and your Rangers, but these are setup teams, so they're relatively immobile, which on a big map, you just don't fight them. You just go elsewhere, cap a different part of the map, avoid the immobile setup teams. And of course, because they're tier 1.5, they're going to come out later than a Guardian squad that you can purchase at the start of the game. So we'll see how it fares for Scrap Goblin. So far, it looks like he is avoiding the central area. He's avoiding any fight around this contested, and he's taking the bottom. He might then converge on the centre. Boogeyman is going to be opting for Rangers as his first purchase. There's an interesting mechanic in the mirror here regarding the Rangers versus the Shuriken. So conventionally, you would think that snipers beat a setup team because they outrange them. The setup team's immobile. You just shoot at them from a distance where they can't fire back. By the time the setup teams de-set up and got into range, you've left. However, Guardians for Eldar can plant energy shields which make your units immune to range damage. And snipers, Rangers included, don't do really any damage to the energy shields. So if you put a Shuriken behind an energy shield, Rangers can shoot at it for a solid 5 minutes without being able to do any damage. That can make it an impregnable point on the map, which you know your enemy can't push against. So it can swing the whole sniper versus setup team matchup around on its head. So it'll be interesting to see how Scrap Goblin plays that, and now him having two Guardians would allow him to deploy more energy shields than Boogeyman, and so maybe he could counter the Shuriken, the Ranger play with Shurikens better than Boogeyman, but it appears they're both going to be going for Rangers. Boogeyman going for 2 Rangers, Scrap Goblin going for 1 Ranger. Of course, he only can afford 1 here because he went for the double Guardians. If we look at the power situation, we've got the second generator coming up for Scrap Goblin. We already have 2 generators up for Boogeyman. No third on the way in spite of him having the requisition for it. So it's likely he is going to want to get another tier 1.5 unit out first before purchasing that generator. Probably a Shuriken. Shurikens are good to use defensively to defend these contested points. They're good against the heroes, which otherwise can be quite difficult to deal with. No war gear on either of these heroes yet. And interestingly, the Rangers here for Scrap Goblin just running around with pistols and power swords at the moment, not actually equipped with long rifles. Versus the 6 long rifles that Boogeyman has access to at the moment. No aspect on the Banshees, but it's coming in. They retreat very prematurely there, though. I'm not really sure why he retreated there. It's quite odd. There was only the Rangers, which only have 2 models, so not exactly a lot of ranged firepower there. But I guess he just wants to reposition and ensure that he has full models on his units before he takes a committed fight. The Banshees here for Boogeyman do have their aspect, Scrap Goblins do not, so in a 1v1 of course, Boogeymans will win. Certainly when Scrap Goblins are getting hurt so badly by these Rangers. Now the Banshees here do get damage resistance against range damage from being in melee with a power node, otherwise they would have already lost some models. Banshees should be able to take some models off of them. Where's the grenade? Ooh. I guess the grenade was attempted over there, but it got cancelled. The Warp Spider giving the model that was going to throw the grenade, I assume? Maybe it was just manually cancelled. So far, Boogeyman seems to be doing a good job. I mean, he lost a little bit of map control there when he retreated all of his units to reinforce them, but hey, he came back with a bang, didn't he? Kills 3 Guardians there. These Guardians are going to get wrecked. Just got to be careful of a potential grenade spike. Not going to happen. He uses his shout unnecessarily there. Boogeyman got a tremendous amount of requisition. He forgot to build his 3rd gen. That's not good for him. He could have been way ahead in tech. Instead, Scrap Goblin is the one going to be going to tier 2 first. I assumed that Boogeyman was wanting a shuriken, but I don't know, maybe he did initially and he's changed his mind? I'm not sure, but he's clearly not purchasing a tier 1.5. He would have got that ages ago. And because this node got taken out by the Banshees, it's actually delaying him from dropping his 3rd gen for quite a long time. Which is bad. He's going to be quite far behind compared to Scrap Goblin. He's not too far behind in terms of power, but... well, he hasn't even started tier 2 yet. Scrap Goblin is over halfway there. On the plus side for Boogeyman, he's getting a nice VP lead. Ranger's just going to the mid here. I'm not sure about this build from Scrap Goblin. It's quite weird, really. You can see once the Banshees are out of melee, man, they take a lot of damage from those Rangers. Ooh, nice grenade, though. Oh, I thought that was going to do more. It didn't really do anything, and that was a bad grenade. Killed one of his own Banshees. So Scrap Goblin really not doing very well in these fights, but it's not very shocking, is it? Because he doesn't have the aspect on his Banshees. And these dual upgraded Rangers are just outputting so much damage from afar. Farseer killed. But maybe Scrap Goblin can make a bit of a comeback here with the Falcon. The Falcon is definitely a more risky play to the Wraith Lord, but it's better if you're ahead in tech, because it's way faster. So you get it out, and you rush it over to the enemy gen farm, bash their farm, and then get out of there before they can respond with AV. There's no shuriken on the field here for Boogeyman, so it's not like he can just upgrade to a Bright Lance as soon as he gets tier 2, which is a good thing for Scrap Goblin. It means he will see any shuriken that's coming out, unless it's hidden really far back, but even then, Boogeyman has to spend the time to get to tier 2, then wait for the shuriken to purchase, then wait for the upgrade on the Bright Lance to come in, and that is gonna be a long time. Nice use of the gate there by Scrap Goblin, using the ability on it that the Farseer gets, which infiltrates nearby units, including vehicles, as you've seen. Oh, the grenade on his own Banshees! Oh my god, I feel like we're always seeing people killing their own units with grenades these days. What's going on? Oh, that was not good. That was not good. Especially when the Falcon was right there, so the enemy just has to get inside the transport to dodge it. Oh, wow. And then the freaking Guardians get killed by the range damage on retreat. What? Oh, this is bad. This is really bad. I would be upgrading my Warlocks next on the Guardians to make them really beefy little ranged traders. Got one of them. And the nice thing, of course, is that they're alongside the Falcon now, so you've got a really nice mobile ranged force that can pop out and really DPS things down. And of course, these 2 Guardians support the Falcon by helping it repair. I wouldn't have my Banshees here bashing, just bash with your ranged units. You don't need to be taking the bleed on the Shees. I send the Shees over to just decap these things. Oh really, the VPs? He hasn't even decapped the VPs. Wow, killing more Banshees there. Damn. See, the Warlock's really good even against the Rangers, because he gives the damage resistance against range to the entire squad, so the Rangers are way less impactful. Really nice utility upgrade. Helps against the Spider as well, and his harassment. So the Falcon's going to rotate back over. We do have the Wraith Lord coming out now for Boogeyman, but generally what you want to do when you get the Wraith Lord out, you want to keep it hidden, get the Bright Lance on it, and then infiltrate it with a hollow field and bait the Falcon in close so that you can start a melee charge. If you can start a melee charge and get one hit on the Falcon, and then you've got the Bright Lance, then you can usually kill the Falcon before it can escape. That upgrade is pretty expensive though. I think it's about 40 power or something, so right now that's going to be kind of tough for Boogeyman. He literally had the power capped there by Goblin, which I'm not sure. I don't really think I'd have gone for the cap there. It's impossible to hold this. You've got to expect that he was going to get a vehicle soon. Here comes the Bright Lance. So it's 30 power, not 40.
The enemy has 200 points remaining.
Lucky for Boogyman, that would have been even later. Some free XP for the Wraithlord here, taking out the Webway Gates. Very aggressive Webway Gate, to be fair. Maybe he would have put it over here. Well, he's got one by the power, I suppose. Then maybe down here somewhere would be quite nice. Regardless, the Bright Lance is now here, and you can see it puts the pressure on the Falcon. I think the Falcon should have the movement speed to get away here. Oh, not if he turns around! Why has he turned around? Oh my god, he might get it with the rear armor. Does one more do it? Yeah, it does. But now the Fire Dragons are here, and this is a tricky engagement. He's committing to fighting the Fire Dragons. As long as he's in melee, obviously he's going to be fine, but... Ooh. He does it. He manages to get rid of the Fire Dragons. I feel like they could have just backed off to the gate and kited him. This Wraithlord's not on a lot of HP. Well, actually, compositionally right now, Boogyman's in a pretty good spot, especially given he's the Warp Spider Exarch. He could use his Global to call in some spiders, some Warp Spiders, for cheaper, and I think that would be extremely effective. With the dual ranges, he's got a lot of range DPS already, plus the Spider Exarch. You can really melt these guys. Especially with the Wraithlord as kind of like a linchpin to counter-initiate any enemy Banshees. And then that would free up Boogyman's Banshees to sidecap, where they'll beat basically anything other than, you know, Banshees from Scrap Goblin. Have to see what level the Banshees are for our Goblin. Because you got to remember in the melee fights... Oh wow, he's going to go for a Falcon. No, that's not a good idea. Don't get for another Falcon now. The window of opportunity has been missed. In the melee fights, whichever squad has higher melee skill is going to get a huge advantage, because they're the same unit, so they've got the same base melee skill. So anyone that has higher level is going to have higher melee skill, and that means the other one gets 0 specials. They're both level 1 for now, though. So the Entangling Web now purchased on the Spider Exarch. That's going to give him a pretty juicy DPS increase, about 50%. But more importantly, it gives him the Entangling Web ability, so that he can immobilize one of these squads. Going to be quite useful against the Fire Dragons, so that he can't actually kite the Wraithlord, and that's exactly what he does. Look at that. Immobilizes them, and now the Wraithlord can kick the shit out of them. Same with the Banshees. Yeah, they need to retreat a long time ago. I guess they were staying in play there, hoping that they could get to the Falcon, get in it, and kite. I'm not sure why the Banshees here for Scrap Goblin are not engaging alongside the Farseer. We've just got to be careful of a bitch slap from the Wraithlord, but the Wraithlord mostly moving forward to try and deal with the Falcon, which is kiting it right now. Still got to keep kiting with the Falcon now. Okay. Gonna get some repairs on the Wraithlord as it soft retreats. Bottom of the map in control of Scrap Goblin. Looks like these pistol rangers have been running around just doing that little capping. Mostly just used as a capping unit here, but also a detector in case of any hollow field shenanigans, I suppose, that come out of the enemy ranger or some of the Farseer Webway Gates. No, not relevant because he's fighting the spider. Well, speaking of them anyway, they just got absolutely obliterated there by a called-in Spider Squad and the Entangling Web Warp Spider Exarch. And again, another very aggressive Webway Gate here from Scrap Goblin. He does have this one down here, and I suppose one of the nice things about these gates is even though the Rangers detect them, Rangers with long rifles are not very good against buildings. So they'll take a tremendously long amount of time to actually destroy a Webway Gate with their sniper rifles. But here is the Haywire Grenade, and you've got potentially heavy melee from the Howling Banshee Exarch here. The Banshees should just tie up the Fire Dragon, but they're going to be counter-initiated by the... Ooh, this is a bad situation for the Wraithlord. It went in too deep against the Falcons. Oh, it's so dead. Banshee Exarch in place still, Fire Dragons and the Falcon, and the Wraithlord is going to go down. Bit too aggressive, really. Really, I guess it was the webway gate, wasn't it? Did the units come out of the webway gate? I can't even remember. So he didn't see them, so he committed quite deep to trying to kill the Falcon with an Alpha Strike with the Haywires being used for the first time, but didn't anticipate the Banshees and the Fire Dragons popping out as reinforcements. And, well, this is the risk of having vehicles, right? Vehicles can't retreat, so you commit to that play, and you get caught in an ambush. Well, you're going to lose your vehicle because you can't retreat. That's the advantage of being able to heal them on the field and not bleeding requisition from model losses. Disadvantage. Did I say disadvantage or advantage? Not being able to retreat is definitely not an advantage. He gets the decap in the mid there, does Goblin, but going to be forced off by the Shees. Right, Ranger's basically just running around capping at this point for Boogeyman, which feels a bit bad. You know, you've invested the resources to get the long rifles, which are quite a significant upgrade, but they're just running around capping. I guess Boogeyman losing one of his Guardians, well, he only had one, but losing that initial Guardian hurt quite a lot. Just imagine how good his economy would be right now if he didn't lose that Guardian. God, he could have double Spiders or something. He's going for double Banshees? Huh. I guess because he's seen the Wraith Guard for Scrap Goblin? Interesting. Wraith Guard are a really interesting choice, actually, because it is quite a heavy ranged composition here for Boogeyman, so I kind of like the Wraith Guard, actually. And I understand why Boogeyman's gone for another Banshee squad. The alternative would be to go for an Autark, which could also be good with a Scorpion Shield, because there's a decent amount of range DPS coming out here. I mean, look at this. But Boogeyman, not liking his positioning here, is just going to force off this Guardian and probably get out of their main retreat from these forces. These Banshees need to be very careful they don't get caught. I'm not sure if he's aware. Yeah, he's moving them away. He's trying to go for the kill on the Farseer right now, but they're idling. Oh, the Farseer gets a really lucky special there. Bloody hell, it knocked over the entire squad, and these Banshees are getting wrecked right now by the guided Banshees of Goblin. I think Boogeyman forgot about them. Oh, no. Oh, that's really bad for Boogeyman. I mean, of course he has replacements, but look, they've got no XP. So they're going to get annihilated by Scrap Goblin's Banshees in a 1v1 at this point. The only advantage really for Boogeyman right now is the fact that he has a tremendous amount of VP lead compared to Scrap Goblin. But Scrap Goblin is constantly using gates, which is going to help him a lot, as is the Falcon, because of the mobility that having a transport vehicle provides. If Scrap Goblin can somehow get to tier 3, and he can get the energy field and the Falcon, I think that will be pretty much game over for Boogeyman, but at the moment it actually seems like Boogeyman is going to be the one who gets to tier 3 first. He entangles the Shees there and then goes to continue the cap. I find that a bit odd. Okay, Haywire Grenade and Howling Banshees. So you can use the Wraith Guard here to try and suppress the Howling Banshees to stop them chasing the Falcon. Otherwise, the heavy melee from the Banshees likely going to actually kill the Falcon here. Can it get away? No, it can't. And now Banshees are just going to overwhelm everything inside the Falcon. Wow, this is a sloppy game. Falcon definitely risky when the enemy has one of these jump squads or teleporting squads that can then snare your vehicle. And that was a bit optimistic there from Boogeyman, putting the crack shot on the Spiders to try and kill the Shees in retreat. Not really even close. Farseer catching the Rangers down here. They're not going to be able to cap under her melee attacks, so they're just going to retreat out. Really think that the gates here are saving Scrap Goblin quite a lot. Probably be very close to 0 VPs if he actually didn't have these gates. Of course, Boogeyman should be using gates himself. There's no excuse for it. It's a difficult choice to decide whether to go and get another Warp Spider squad with your global bar or get another Banshee. I think both would be fine, but you could also go tier 3. He's got the VP lead, does Boogeyman, so going tier 3 instead of these additional infantry purchases I don't think would be a terrible play, and then you can get your Seers and get a Prism afterwards. Given that Scrap Goblin's AV potential is just the Fire Dragon and the Wraith Guard right now, there wouldn't be much of a threat to a Prism if you had Seers, but funnily enough, it's going to be Scrap Goblin who gets to tier 3 first. Boogeyman trying to put the foot down on the gas right now. Finish out the game before it can continue much longer. Just get rid of those final 164 VPs for Scrap Goblin. And you've seen that Scrap Goblin's Banshees were winning that fight quite handily against the Banshees of Boogeyman there, but then of course came in the Warp Spiders, the Guardians, and the Warp Spider Exarch of Boogeyman, and that fight turned around quite quickly when they weighed in with their own DPS. I don't know what these Guardians are doing. Where are they going? Okay, they were in melee mode, it appeared there, trying to melee the Spider Exarch or something. Honestly, very lucky to get out alive there, but they do. Secondary Banshees there for Boogeyman, capping the center VP. The Rangers did manage to get the decap over here on the bottom contested, but the Farseer's kind of been chilling here the whole time. We've not really seen anything from the Farseer. I guess that's to be expected, given she's got no war gear investment, but that's a shame. Farseer can be extremely impactful in the army versus army fights in the Eldar Mirror. Spirit Stones is pretty great. If you're trying to shut down a blob of ranged units, then you can use your Rune Armor, Psychic Storm. Can be very effective too. Even just spamming Doom, Guide, Fortune. They're very simple abilities, just been stat buffs, but you can spam loads of them. Get the Runes of Reaping to reduce your cooldowns and go crazy. But we're not seeing it from Scrap Goblin. Let's see how this engagement goes. Fire Dragon's relatively resilient here, as you can see, because they actually are heavy infantry. So the DPS here from the Spiders and the Guardians, not that impactful against their heavy infantry armor. Wraithguard needs to be careful. The Banshees are still in play here. Nice play there by Boogeyman to tie up the Fire Dragons with the Spiders, just to stop the very low HP Banshees from being killed whilst they dice up the Wraithguard in melee. Farseer finding herself in a very awkward position right now. She really wanted to get over and guide the Seer Council, and she does. She will get out alive. The Seer Council disrupting that Spider Squad with their leap into combat and going to take 3 models. Probably want to just move on to the Banshees, but getting disrupted for now and whittled down. Of course, that was a kinetic pulse to knock them back, then an entangling web to immobilize them. Banshees trying to stay in play right now just to destroy the Webway Gate, but the Seer Council are not going to allow it. And some Banshees for Scrap Goblin could pop out of this gate any second as well, and that could be quite deadly for Boogeyman. Fire Dragon's Banshees come out, Banshees go onto the Spider, Seer Council are going to charge on through. Seer Council, whilst they are only light infantry, they're very tough at 500 HP per model, and they passively lower the damage taken from ranged DPS to nearby units, including themselves. So you see how they've got the blue circle here? That's because they've got a DR buff. And they're giving that to themselves. And you see how they're getting it as well. Now it disappears because they're out of range of the Seers. Same with the Farseer. But the fact that they then... I think it's 20%, or it might be 15%. I think it's 15% actually. So, effectively, they've got 650 HP against piercing, which is kind of insane. So a lot compared to the Banshees, which have like what? Well, level 1, they're only like 100 and something HP each. Pretty significant difference. And you can see once again, Banshees and Boogeyman here basically just acting as bait. Because they're losing the fight against Scrap Goblin's Banshees, but then all of a sudden all this piercing comes out. And the one thing the Seers can't deal with right now is a Wraith Lord, because they are only power melee. But that's why Scrap Goblin should follow this up with a Fire Prism. You could go for a Falcon too, because he is tier 3, so he could get the shield on it to make it a lot more durable. Be an option. I'd just go with a Prism though, personally. I like Prisms. Well, actually, maybe a Falcon would be better, because against the Spider with a Prism, you could actually go for the heavy melee Power Blaze on the Warp Spider Exarch. The Prism is one of the few vehicles in the game that the heavy blades on the Warp Spider might actually kill, because it's such a low DPS weapon. I think it's like 55 DPS melee. It's not a lot. But, you know, against artillery vehicles like a Manticore, Whirlwind, Fire Prism. Haywire Grenade into that probably could kill it. Obviously, if there's support nearby, then that's not going to happen. So maybe Falcon with a shield would be good, but Fire Prism will be okay. You just got to keep one Banshee squad nearby if he does go for those Power Blades to attack the Spider. VPs are now getting very close for both players. 137 for Boogyman and 122. 122 still for Scrap Goblin as he decaps the mid from Boogyman, turning this game into a 1-to-1 cap. It's like the Wraith Guard are just scouting out at the top. Note that he doesn't have the Warlock Leader here. You're going to be careful with the Warlock Leader on the Wraith Guard. I know you think an upgrade is always a good thing, but it's really not. If that Warlock Leader does die, it not only stuns all the nearby Wraith Guard, I think it does 200 damage per model, which is 600 HP damage spike to the Wraith Guard. It can be quite brutal. And he does tend to die quite a lot. So the Seer Council trying to engage there, but man, that's a lot of firepower coming in from the Exarch, the Spider Squad, and the Guardians. And there are 2 Banshees here as well, so Seer's a little bit outnumbered. Is the Prism in dispersed shot? It is, so it is going to get a really nice shot there, and Warp Spiders actually kind of screw up. They teleported too fast and not close enough to the Prism, so they're not actually in range of their Haywire. So now the Prism is just free to harass. But of course, no, it doesn't have to worry about a Bright Lance on the Wraith Lord, because this Wraith Lord has already dedicated itself to the Shuriken Cannon. So this Wraith Lord really can't really do anything against the Prism. We're not seeing any upgrade to their Power Blades or whatever that... What do you even call that Wargear? I forgot what it's called because you never see it. I don't even remember the melee. Is it just Power Blades? Or Spider X like Power Blades? I'm not sure. The problem for the Prism is that the infantry support has been forced off and Scrap Goblin is losing VPs very quickly. He's lost most of his web brigates. Of course, he's got this one down here. Hence he emerges with his main fighting force down the bottom, going to take this VP. And now he is eyeing up the centre. Very cautious with his Fire Prism. Fire Prisms are very fragile. But there is nothing to deal with it. He should probably... Well, actually, he's got no red. I was going to say maybe using the Farsight Global to scout out the mid and see there's nothing here. But he's got no red. He's been using his web brigates quite well. He needs to swap to the Focus Beam to try and deal with this Wraith Lord, but it's quite frustrating. This is such a tempting blob of infantry. In fact, he is going to stay on the dispersed mode to try and deal with this infantry. Honestly, he should just retreat his own infantry here. They are just bleeding, ineffective against this massive horde of infantry that Boogyman has. Takes out the Farseer and retreat as well, and now the Warp Spider's going to rotate over. It seems the Guardians and the Wraith Guard here are actually able to take this contested. What just happened? Okay, no, nothing got wiped. I always think someone got wiped when they say our Howling Banshees have howled their last, but no, they just lost some models. It's okay. And Wraith Guard here going to be quite vulnerable to these Banshees. The Banshees just going to go onto the cap. No, they already own here. What are they doing? Banshees should just go deal with these Wraith Guard, cap the VP up top. Rather desperate web brigade being built in plain sight there by Scrap Goblin, but going to be taken out by the Wraith Lord. And again, Wraith Lord's always quite effective. But Fire Prism going to yeet those Banshees over, force them to retreat. What we got going on? We got this Spider Exarch going for phase armor now that Boogyman is in tier 3. So maybe trying to make a play against the Fire Prism, phase shift it, and then hit it with an Eldritch Storm to wipe it. I'd have probably just gone for the blades, to be honest. He's hit the Fire Prism with a Haywire and Scrap Goblin didn't react to micro it. So the Wraith Lord was able to get into melee. Might even kill this damn Prism. He's trying to path block with the Rangers. Yeah, he's gonna get it. Wow. Big misplay there from Scrap Goblin. Scrap Goblin's still got the top, but Guardians are moving over to deal with it. Banshees come out. No, they're not Banshees, they're Seer Council. Moving over after capping that point. Calling in an Autarch now is Goblin to try and stop this decap, which he does for a little bit, but the Guardians are going to get the decap on the top. It's still one cap to Scrap Goblin. 0 points capped for Boogyman, so Boogyman is slowly having his points bled, but the one cap that does exist for Scrap Goblin is now going to be taken away by this Ranger squad. Banshee squad is idle. The Autark jumped over here. Procs a special, but she didn't stop. She could have right-clicked this point and started capping to reset the progress, but she didn't. Another mistake by Scrap Goblin there. And now it's a 1-0 cap in favour of Boogyman. Boogyman right now, Eldritch storming down here. I don't know if he just did the phase shift combo. Probably did, and that's going to be GG. Yeah, Scrap Goblin forced off of most fights here. The Autark's not going to do too much against the Wraithlord. Can't get the decap. And Boogyman has the centre. And has down here. Damn. That was quite a bloody scrap between these two Eldari. There you go, folks. Hope you did enjoy that one. If you want more of this kind of content, you can find it out by checking out the Patreon. And you'd be supporting the channel while you do so. $5 monthly subscription. You only have to pay for 1 month and you get access to probably around 45 1v1 videos, maybe 50 by the time this gets uploaded immediately. But yeah, check it out if you want to support the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Torpid signing out.